I am quite happy today because I have bought new fish. And you know how if your life is shit and you always just want something just to make it that little bit better, and you don't know what to do to make it better. And well, if you don't have that much cash, it's limited what you can buy, and it's amazing how cheap fish are and how much better you can feel, especially when you get new ones. Like I had 10 neon ones, which I really like. The neon ones, they don't do much, they're kind of like cowfish, they just kind of hover, but they're very, very pretty, have lots of color, and I like them because the guppies are very, like, the male guppies are very, very fast and kind of just swimming all over the place. The female guppies, I kind of don't really like looking at them because they're always pregnant or always bloated. They get pregnant and then they lose their weight. But after they've got pregnant two or three times, they just always seem bloated, and I always seem like concerned about them. So I don't really like looking at the females, but at the same time, I do like the babies and the fry. Hence, I don't mind it. But yeah, camera's frozen. When it comes to the neons, I was watching them go down, but I don't actually know because I took about two or three of them out the cage because I remember them dying and I took them. But the rest, there's about five of them that just kind of died, and I have no idea what happened to the body. So I'm pretty sure they get eaten quite fast by the guppies as soon as they die. So you have to kind of catch. I think there's some places that you can hide in the tank, and I think sometimes they die, but they die in like a hiding place, and then they just kind of get eaten over the 24-hour period. And yeah, but yeah, it's very strange with the guppies. I mean, maybe they're all because there's quite a lot of like baby guppies, but they're all female, unless maybe they just haven't grown a dick yet. I know they don't get their color till later, but you can usually tell it after like 2 months or 3 months what age they are, and I think most of those ones are female. I'm wondering like what's happened to the males. Have they been eaten? Have they? I haven't. I've only seen one fry. Although it's strange, I was looking in the new tank, and I swear I saw a fry, but it was just like I remember transferring all the fish from one tank into the other, and I did not see any really small ones. And I was looking very, very carefully, and I'm pretty sure I stared at it for about 3 seconds, and I was thinking that's a lot smaller than all the other ones. Why did I not see that one? And yeah, that's making me wonder when you change the water, they could be going down the drain. I mean, if they're that small and if the water does have bits in it and stuff, it's very easy to mistake them for bits. So I'm wondering if I've got rid of some down the drain when training. I always look, but I didn't know if there is a fry in the new tank that I just set up. One that's so small that I might get eaten by the mothers. For the first 2 weeks, you have to keep them in a cup. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw one, but I saw it only for like 2 seconds and then it disappeared. And then afterwards, I was like, was that really that small, or am I just like imagining it a bit? But yeah, and I've also got a little like catfish or something, but as soon as I went in there, there was loads of poo all over the floor. I think it was because I've got way too many in there. I had at least 10 more in there than I should. And the poo was gathering up. But yeah, it looked at the poo and just went, wee! You can like hear it speaking in its head. Wee! And it just dived straight into the poo. I was trying to get a video of it doing that, but every time I tried to get a camera out, it would go and hide behind a rock. So it didn't really like being seen diving into the poo. I think I did take a camera thing and put it on Instagram, but it didn't seem to do it in the same way. But I think I'm not even sure if it actually eats, because I don't believe that it could eat that much. It just seems to be, it rests for 5 minutes and then eats for 5 minutes, rests for 5 minutes and eats for 5 minutes. I'm just thinking you can't be eating this much. So I'm wondering if it's actually eating, or if it likes the stones are like little glass, and I'm wondering, is it actually eating, or is it just like cleaning the glass? Does it like just, I don't know, making the glass nice and shiny or something? So I'm trying to figure out like what's it actually doing, because it reminds me of a cow eating grass and it's just constantly doing it. But at the same time, cows are big, so of course they can eat a lot of grass, whereas this thing's tiny, and I'm just like, yeah, you've been doing this all day, and the tank is like 10 times cleaner than what it was when I set it up at 12, and I put the catfish in at 12. I went away to the gym and I came back, and by 7 o'clock, I swear it was like 4 times tidier, and now it's there's not that much poo in there. Um, and I'm so just like, have you eaten all of that, or is it? It might just be like lifting it up and getting it, stirring it. If you stir it, because that's how I try and get rid of the poo. You stir it around every now and then, because there's a filter. You hope that it either dissolves into the water and gets picked up in the filter, or just goes straight into the filter. But with it going in there, it's like eating stuff, but it's also like throwing up lots of dirt, and that's probably helping it dissolve into the water or something. I don't know. But it's being very useful. And then I've got the angelfish, which yeah, it reminds me of when I went to America. I just saw those shops that just had these tiny little pots with an angel fish. I don't even know if they're called angel fish or if it's like a guppy angel. But yeah, I felt so sorry for them because the water was still, the water just didn't do anything. And I was just wondering, why are these not dead? They look dead. Some of them were dead. And I was feeling really bad. And it angers me how disrespectful it is. These are living fish, and you shouldn't keep them in pots for months at a time. How often do they sell? How regular do these things sell? I don't know. Um, but I've got one now, and looking at it kind of reminds me of um, of people's disrespect towards these kind of fish. But at the same time, it's making me hate people. But at the same time, I think that's a good thing because that people need to be hated if they're doing shit like this to these pretty angel fishy things. But yes, so I've got. But it's nice. Before I had like three different breeds, and now I've got five different breeds technically, and then I put all the females in another one. The females definitely are not as interesting, but when you've got them with the cute little orange ones, some of the orange babies are like that big, and I've got three that are like this big, two that are that big, and then I've actually just put another one that was like a slightly bigger one, so you can see. I think there was 3 months. So the first four were the one that's the big, the guppy flounder that I called him. So she had six, and then it went down to five, and then it went down to four because I think the male killed. I think one of those was a male, and the male killed it. And then there was another three from the first birth of the second fish that I bought, and then I think there was one, and then I think there was another three. So I've or something like that. I can't exactly remember, but it's something like that. So there's quite a lot of orange ones, but it's I feel I feel I feel like I feel like I can get addicted to it, and I now just want like a really big fish tank that I can like jump into and join the fish. And I go to Sea Life. I went to Sea Life 2 days ago to have a look at what they've got, but it's a bit depressing because all their fish are like massive ones. Now I love the puffer fish. That's really interesting, and there's a few smaller ones that they have that are nice, but most of their fish tanks are just like piranhas or carp or just big fish. And I think it's good to have them, but because it's such a small sea life center, I would love it if they would, I don't know, just get, even just in the blank, there's loads of like empty hallways where there's nothing in them, just fill them up with lots of mini fish tanks with all these little tiny fish. If I was to have my dream house, I would kind of put a big fish tank with all the little tiny, lots of little ones. I like mixing. I do like mixing the breeds, although I know that some of them do get eaten. But if the fish tank is really big, then you could probably prevent a lot of them from being eaten. But so a lot of them, they get eaten in fish tanks, but only if it's a small fish tank. But yeah, I feel like it reminds me of the world, about how if the world gets overpopulated, something needs to be done to reduce the population, and if a fish tank gets overpopulated, something needs to be done, and then it is done, and it's done in quite a harsh way because the adults just eat the babies, and that's just life. And I really want to make some music videos of Leona Lewis's songs, but I think that would be a good intro, where I say something like God, I don't know how I'd say it. God creates nature to imitate nature, and what needs to happen. And in a fish tank, if there's too many fish in there, the fish start eating the babies. And likewise, if Earth is overpopulated, It needs to be all the older souls that get rid of the younger souls. And you can call it harsh, you can call it wrong, but at the end of the day, it's life. And the fish in the fish, the male fish. There's 7 male fish, and I'm wondering why there's no male babies. Any and my guess is that the 7 male fish don't want to share the females with other males, so they're trying to get rid of them, and they've gone for the weakest, which are the smaller ones. Um, I don't know if any of the smaller ones are going to turn into males. I mean, maybe they're just really really early, so it's not possible to tell. But it looks like they're all female. But time will tell. Um, and yeah, that's just kind of life. Although I find it interesting how the males, they like to group up in groups, and then they kind of talk. It's weird. The male guppies sort of talk to each other, and you can kind of imagine a conversation that they're having. And they didn't. They liked being with the females, but you could tell the females didn't like being with them because you would hardly ever see the females. And there was two main adult females, fully adult group females. I always saw them, but they would usually have like 3 or 4 males kind of around them, not all the time, but a lot of the time. But part of me feels like the males were actually kind of gay because they I think they enjoyed being with the males more. But I think they had a lot more energy. You would see them going around with lots of energy, but then it could be because the females either look bloated or pregnant or they keep getting some sort of infection in their stomach. And I know how it's happened with other females. They've got this bloating infection, and one of them actually exploded, and you could see like some sort of cancer or something that's sort of came out of her stomach or whatever, and she died because it just got so big. And I didn't know what to do once you can see it's like something was bloating and then it just popped and it looked kind of like a brain or something just kind of coming out of her. But she was still alive. She stayed alive for another few days after that, and I was just concerned. But yeah, they're all bloating, so I'm wondering if they're all gonna end up with this. The other ones that bloated and they just died. But yeah, I think it's better to keep the females in a different tank. So that's. I mean, if you had more females than males, I might put like 1 or 2 males in the tank with the females because I don't mind them getting pregnant. But yeah, when they get pregnant, they start not having that much energy, and I start worrying if it's is this pregnancy or is this is just bloating. And I know if they get pregnant and then the tummy goes down after the birth, then it's like, okay, well that's not an infection, but then they're not. It's concerning whether that's going to happen or not because you don't know. Anyway.